there is no doubt that the power of Zionist lobby in United States is immense. In Europe, you have the Zionist lobby and the guilt. In the US, there is no guilt.
Literally, all the stuff that they have been spreading is doubtful at the least, and that includes, of course, the 1,300 Israelis killed number.
So it became very, very difficult for some of the people who are not very aware about the Hasbara tactics of the Israelis to support, Hamas's action at least in the initial 24 hours.
What it does is create this narrative of Israel under siege, Israel being the good guys, and it takes very little to convince the world that Hamas is a group of bearded, raw meat eating terrorists who will gang rape everyone and kill everyone mercilessly.
The rock solid support which you once saw in Qatar behind Hamas, that is no more there.
Hasbara is always going to reach you before lies are going to reach you before the truth starts putting on its shoes.
Even those activists, who are politicians now and have started their career in activism, who were pro-Palestinians and very vocal about their stand. Once they come to a position where they have to fight an election and they need funding, none of them have the guts to challenge the Zionist regime, and they walk back on their initial position on Palestine.
Welcome viewers to DYNT News. Today we have with us Saurabh Kumar Shahi, who is an independent journalist and covers Middle East, South Asia, and is the expert in conflict reporting. And we have our usual guest, Bodhisattwa Maity, who is a senior associate editor at Indian Express. Today we are discussing in the Israel and Palestinian issue. This is the second version or second episode of our series on Israel and Palestine. As of now, we know that one Palestinian American child has been killed or lynched in broad daylight in US. At the same time, we are seeing BBC coverage where they're showing that Israelis are crying for this war to stop. And first, let's have Saurabh Kumar Shahi with his opening comments. But before he comes in, let me just ask our viewers to like, share, and subscribe. DYNT, democratize your nation today, and our tagline is awaken one human at a time. So, Saurabh sir, please, your opening comments.
Thank you for calling me. Look, this is something which was a long time coming. Why I say this is because if you look at the politics around what was happening in Palestine in the last 3 to 4 years, especially around the Abraham Accord, there was a sense of despair among the Palestinians. The root for the despair was that for a very, very long time, Palestinians had a lot of faith in the Sunni monarchies of the Middle East. While they had understood very, very long ago that these monarchies and they are not going to help them militarily. But at least they were very confident that these monarchies will help them in terms of diplomatic cover at the United Nations and on other fronts. What happened with Abraham Accord is that that faith finally got shattered. But still, till the time the normalization with Saudi Arab was not in the picture, they were at least confident that, okay, look, at least a large portion of the Muslim world considers Saudi as the leader of the Sunni Muslim world because of the fact that they control the two most important cities in Sunni Islam. So at least they had that heft. Now, what was happening was that in the last 6 months, because of the news surrounding this whole, normalization process, the Palestinians thought that, okay, if the idea is that the Israelis want to create a faith accompli for us, or sort of they want to create a status quo where we cannot do much, let's not fall in that trap and do something which will sort of create a dent in this whole idea that everything is hunky dory and Israel can get away with this status quo. And I think this whole military action is very important in that aspect. Let me tell you that no one in the world now, whether it is United States or whether it is DC or Riyadh or any capital city in the world, nobody thinks that it is a status quo can be maintained now. They all agree behind the back now. Of course, they have to say statements in the favor of Israel, but behind the back, all of them agree that the day of status quo is gone. They have to do something uh, towards this plan. Let's see what happens in the coming days. But I think this was long time coming, and this has changed the strategic game in the Middle East. Look, as far as the tactical aspect of this thing is concerned, of course, Palestinians will have setbacks. Militarily, operationally, they will have setbacks. But it has completely changed the scenario as far as the strategic goals are concerned in the Middle East. So I think it is a big development on that front.
Okay. So, Maity da, Saurabh sir has entered into the Sunni and the Shia and the other aspects within the Islamic world and tried to intellectualize the Palestinian issue from that point of view. We have already discussed in the earlier video. We have touched some aspects of it. So, would you like to comment on what Saurabh sir is saying?
I more or less agree with him what he's saying, and in any case, I am not an expert in the diplomatic uh, aspects of this conflict, where I am just another layman, right? So I will go with everything that Saurabh has said. I will just uh, don't know whether it fits in, but I'll just highlight one thing that is on the top of my mind right now, because this is something that for any person who has been following this particular conflict over any period of time would be extremely familiar with, which is not the case with most Indian observers, viewers who have started to discover that there is something of this sort going on somewhere, right? So the point of it is regarding the huge amount of disinformation that has been coming out of Israel and quickly being spread across the world, and it has many reasons behind it, and it has many predictable fallouts. So, but most people in India don't seem to have much idea about it, and in any
Mm.
case, even if someone had a broad idea about what is about to happen or what is happening, the chances of them being gaslighted into default believing the Israeli position is always very high, and it is visible everywhere. So for example, this started with the 40 beheaded children narrative,
Mm.
and some people even shared pictures of charred body, which was quickly disproved. Then came this narrative of whatever, anywhere between 400 and 260 concert goers who were massacred. Now,
Mm.
it doesn't, I mean, obviously lots of people have been killed there, but it really doesn't appear that it was that high. And as it is turning out, quite a few of those people who were broadly claimed that they have been killed there are now coming out as having been captured by the Fatah, by the Hamas, right? Then there was another much more sophisticated narrative that came out of a big collage of several pictures of several children, including a couple which were showing them locked up in a cage. And that too was quickly debunked because that cage picture turned out to be of Palestinian children captured by Israelis and kept in a cage. So when that was debunked, another similar collage came up. Now, so far, it is I am seeing it is being shared on various platforms, uh, but thus far, what I have come across is that even in this, uh, among several Israeli Jewish friends that I have on Facebook and people I follow on Twitter, there have been mainly from the left activist kind of people. Uh, there are lots of people pointing out individuals within that collage of say 20-25 children, saying that this kid is not part of the A because that kid is alive and he's somewhere else, and so on. So, literally all the stuff that they have been spreading is doubtful at the least, and that includes, of course, the 1,300 Israelis killed number, right? So, you know, what it does is create this narrative of Israel under siege, Israel being the good guys, and it takes very little to convince the world that Hamas is a group of bearded, raw meat eating terrorists who will gang rape everyone and kill everyone mercilessly, that kind of stuff. I mean, you get to see that in Hindi films nowadays quite often as well. The Islamic invader. So, people have already been conditioned into believing a lot of this stuff. So, you just need to give them a nudge and they will start believing. And it is not just the case of India, it is across the world. So, that is one aspect. And of course, there is the other aspect of the Hindutva troll army sort of jumping into the narrative and trying to spread their own form of stupidity, which is of course far less evolved than the Israeli Hasbara, but they're doing it. Yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Yeah. So my next question to Saurabh sir, you have talked about this intricacies within the Islamic world. At the same time, for the first time, we see Saudi Arabia, who has condemned the attacks on Gaza, and Al Jazeera, who is mostly Gaza friendly, or also doesn't go against Hamas that much, has also projected its editorial line against Hamas, at least in the starting. So, how do you see this?
Uh, Look, in the case of Qatar, what was happening for a very, very long time was that the spiritual head of the Muslim Brotherhood, Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, had taken the asylum in Qatar. And it was not just an asylum, Qatar was actively helping Qaradawi in all his endeavors. And because Hamas is related to Muslim Brotherhood, it is the wing of a Muslim Brotherhood. Therefore, there of course was this seamless, ideological movement between Qatar and Hamas. However, because of the intra Gulf Coordination Council tension. If you remember a few years ago, some of the members of the GCC, especially Bahrain, UAE, and Saudi, they pressurized Qatar on the issue of Muslim Brotherhood and tried to blockade it. while that blockade remained unsuccessful, a sort of rapprochement happened where Qatar gave a signal to the other GCC members that while they still support, Muslim Brotherhood and their political activities, they will not like Muslim Brotherhood in any way to, sort of do a coup against these monarchies. So there has been some understanding as far as Muslim, activities of Muslim Brotherhood is concerned. That is why the rock solid support which you once saw in Qatar behind Hamas, that is no more there. The support is still there. By and large, it is still there, but it is not as rock solid as it was in the past. First thing. Second, uh, the propaganda in the first 24 hours, the Hasbara was so massive that it was difficult for many people who were even pro-Palestinian to cut through those Hasbara and they justify the attack. Now the problem, and I'm talking about, I talked to some of the Palestinian officials off the record, and off the record, these guys were saying, Saurabh, this is not a way of doing things and things like that, because they themselves got carried away in the Hasbara. Take, for example, one of the incidents which Bodhisattwa mentioned, the incident about that rave party which was happening near Gaza and the attack on the party. Now it has come to fore that some of the survivors they have said that it was not attack on the rave party itself. There was attack on the rave party, but the attack was to sort of to abduct them for exchange. But the killings happen when the armed settlers and the Israeli police and Israeli army intervened. And most of the deaths which happened in the rave party was during the exchange of fire. They were not killed. They were not killed massacre style by Hamas. But this had started coming out only in the last few days when some of the Israeli survivors have gone on record to say that, this is how it happened. So it became very, very difficult for some of the people who are not very aware about the Hasbara tactics of the Israelis to support, Hamas's action at least in the initial 24 hours. I think that is where these slips happen.
Yeah, so Saurabh sir, you are basically trying to say that they are just victims of Hasbara propaganda, and we shouldn't see much into it. But if you look at the larger, Muslim liberal Sunni Muslim world, they don't have that kind of a relationship with the Palestinian issue as they might like to portray. Much of their hatred for the Israelis is religion oriented. It is because of anti-Jewish sentiment, which has always been there. Just like the Christians of the Palestine who were opposing from I think 1911 because of just the sentiments that these are Jewish. This overlapping gap between Zionists and Judaism, this is something which is not understood by many. And I think maybe only the Hindutva of Atal Bihari Vajpayee faction or the leftists globally and in India, they see it as a problem of colonialism, as Zionist colonialism attacking Arabs. So I would like to ask Maity that, and then Saurabh sir will also address my question. It would be great.
It's not about Muslims. See, in India, for the average Muslim, whether liberal or fundamentalist, it doesn't matter. In the current socio-political environment, the automatic reaction is to uh, withdraw from more violent extremist kind of activities to stay on the good books of the state, because the understanding is very clear. Everyone feels that they are being watched, right? But even if you remove that and if you widen the scope from just Indian Muslims to the entire global population, the same Hasbara effect also takes place. right? Everyone starts believing, and then what happens is, in this era of information overload, when there is contending information coming up in tsunamis, the natural reaction of human mind is to cling on to one such data point that more or less adheres to your core convictions, and then stick to it. Generally, that also happens to be the earliest one that reaches you. And Hasbara is always going to reach you before lies are going to reach you before the truth starts putting on its shoes, right? So they will always steamroll through with all kinds of fake news, semi-fake news, which is the most dangerous, right?
Hmm.
And that is what has happened as well. And I can see, I have interacted with so many people uh, for whom even now that many of those have claims have been comprehensively debunked, right? So,
Hmm.
but now that
Hmm.
they have taken a position, uh, which they have kind of mellowed, but broad position that Hamas is wrong. Now they can't walk back from there, so they're stuck there, and they're trying to justify it in some way or the other. This is very common, and the Israelis understand this very well.
Okay. Okay. So, Saurabh Kumar, no, sir, you were talking about this angle. You're just basically saying कि give them the benefit of doubt. But
Look,
yeah.
my point was limited to Qatar and Al Jazeera. I'm not talking about the wider,
Okay.
liberal media world. I was talking primarily about Qatar and Al Jazeera. Look, what is happening otherwise, I'm telling you, is that you also have to understand that, especially in India, irrespective of religion, people have been lulled into this thinking that this Gandhian non-violence kind of a struggle is a very effective and probably the only good way of struggle. Now, why
Hmm.
that happened is that because that kind of struggle had success in India, people believe that you can juxtapose it. That you can use, just take up this template and you can juxtapose it anywhere else in the world and it will work. Now, the problem with that is that you assume that every enemy, every settler colonial power is a constitutionalist like British are. This is the assumption. Now, that is not the case in terms of when you talk about Israel. I mean, I've been covering that region for a long time. I've been to occupied Palestine many times, all sides, Gaza, West Bank, and all. The fight here is very different. This is not a fight in good faith. Your
Hmm.
enemy is not fighting in good faith. Look, 92 happened, Oslo Accord happened, and everybody knows. You talk to the Americans off the record, and they'll tell you that the Palestinians did the Oslo Accord in good faith. The Israelis never did. Okay? And let me give you another example, very recent example. Look at the Minsk agreement which happened between Russia and European powers over Ukraine. Now, every party European party who was signatory to that accord, especially France and Germany, their leaders who were signatory to that accord have come on record and said that this was a red herring and we signed it. We never were going to accept, to implement it. We were just buying time. Now, this shows you that the enemy which Palestinians and some other powers in the world are facing these days, they don't act in good faith. So you cannot just expose this Gandhian thing in Israel and expect that since Gandhi had an success in India, Palestinians must fight like that and have success there. No, it does not work like that. So the problem with the Indian mentality, irrespective of religion, is that they see this Gandhian way as something which can be replicated, and I understand that this cannot. That is a big difference.
Okay. At the same time, I think we should also address one more thing that Israel is flouting international rules and engagements of war. And the one social justice minister, Spain, also has asked that Israel has to be taken to the International Court of Justice, and war crimes that Israel has committed on the Palestinians have to be addressed. We have also seen, Israel bombing universities where Palestinians study, and this attack on education institutes, denying medical care as well as other forms of atrocities. This Israel has been doing for a long time. This is nothing new, and the world hasn't been able to address this in a proper way. Why is it so? Is it because of their cultural capital, or the stranglehold of Zionism, or something else is involved here? Sort of, sir.
Uh, Look, I have never been to United States, so I cannot talk about United States firsthand. But in my interactions with people there, there is no doubt that the power of Zionist lobby in United States is immense, immense to the point where even those activists, who are politicians now and have started their career in activism, who were pro-Palestinians, and very vocal about their stand. Once they come to a position where they have to fight an election and they need funding, none of them have the guts to challenge the Zionist regime, and they walk back on their initial position on Palestine. Europe is the place where I've been working. I've worked for 10 years in a think tank there, so I know the politics there. Europe, it is worse. Why I say worse is that in Europe, you have the Zionist lobby and the guilt. In the US, there is no guilt. There is just lobby. In Europe, there is this stranglehold of Zionism. This lobby is all pervasive. If they can destroy a person like Jeremy Corbyn, you can understand what they can do to a smaller, people with less, backbone. But there is also this issue of guilt. I mean, the brainwashing happens at such a young age that guilt is instilled inside you to the point where you agree that whatever Israel does to anybody is justified, because what we did to them, 70 years ago was horrible. I'll give you two examples from my own life. Because I was at a think tank in Poland, so once I was in Krakow and decided to visit Auschwitz, the concentration camp. I was there and I saw that suddenly, a huge crowd of children, I think between the age group of maybe, 7, 8 years old to around 13, 14 years old, almost 1,000 of them wearing same color jersey and jackets were coming towards me, and I had already visited the concentration camp and going down. And I realized that they were youth players of a very, very popular British football club. And the football club was arranging a trip to Auschwitz for the children between the age group of whatever, 6, 7 and 12, 13, and trying to familiarize them about what happened there. And the way they were doing it, it was not as if it was a history lesson. It was as if they were being, instilled with a guilt. That this guilt passes on to you, even if you were not born, even your father was not born in 39 to 1945, but this guilt is there. Now, I don't understand, why would the youth team of a football club visit Auschwitz? It does not make sense. But this is how Europe does it. Having said that, a large portion of Europeans now have started to turn against Israel. In the general public, they are turning against Israel. That is something which is also happening in the US, but on a smaller scale. There, it is not a bipartisan thing. In the US, Democrat voters are turning against Israel. The Republican voters are not, because they have this messianic reason behind it. But in Europe, I see this turn happen. So it will take time before Israel is brought to justice. It's not going to happen in 5 years, 10 years. But that day is coming, and that day is coming for sure.
Okay, so you have kind of addressed a lot of things which I was going to address further in the show. Republican Democrats more or less are pro-Israel, or they are not going to speak against Israel, but the followers of Donald Trump are completely against Israel. This is something new. Whether it is from an anti-Semitism kind of emotion or something else, we don't know. At the same time, there were two uh, academics who were supposed to join from US, who are from the Indian subcontinental descent, but they didn't join because of the policing that is happening in favor of Israel, and they are scared to showcase their activities or speak anything for the Palestinians on any form
True,
of
true.
media. So Maitida wants to say something. Maitida, please.
Uh, a couple of things just to comment on whatever I've been hearing. So I spent about 5 years in an American university campus, and uh, that is 20, 17, 18 years ago. And at that time, what I had seen, and in the same campus, and it is there in every campus,
Mm,
addressing different groups of people. So you have these birthright groups, right? These are registered groups, mind you, various kind of extracurricular activity groups inside the university campus. So there are those birthright groups which organize annual trips for Christians and other people from across the globe to Israel. That is one. That is for the more rightward bent people. Then you have this called organization, it still exists, called Hillel, whose official uh, position is that they are trying to create a environment of peaceful coexistence to foster friendship officially. But uh, I have always been very. I mean, it's like uh, I have a bad faith about everything Israeli. So during my time there, I would, as an observer, I would go there to Hillel, right? And what I found is that what I'd expected is that they are basically getting, and mind you, there were hardly any Palestinian. In fact, I don't think there was any Palestinian. Already, there were very few Palestinian students in the campus, but the few that were there, I don't think anyone was there as a member there in Hillel.
mm,
So, who were
mm,
the members? They were members from Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, Turkey, the whole Muslim Middle East, right?
mm,
Students who had come from all these countries to this university, they were encouraged to become members of Hillel, right? And there, uh, through all kinds of socialization meetings, they
mm.
would be fed Hasbara.
Okay.
It was very clear, right? So now this is, I am talking about 15, 17 years ago, right? Things have moved. In my time, uh, the university campus newspaper, uh, there was someone, a senior of mine who was also from India, from Tamil Nadu. So that person and I had got through elections to the editorial board, right? So the university newspaper, a formal newspaper, right? So that used to take progressive positions on Israel and Palestine. But
Mm,
every time there was an editorial published on this issue where we were taking a side, right? There would be all kinds of threats coming from various campus bodies, unofficial threats, or phone calls. You should tone down. You should that kind of stuff. So policing of the mind was happening 24/7. right? So
mm,
from there we have moved to two things. The
mm,
what Saurabh said regarding the European street, that I actually saw 20 years ago. Already the European street, especially the younger generations, were firmly in favor of Palestine and had nothing to
mm,
do with Israel, right?
mm, mm,
even even in the US, it has started to turn, especially in elite Ivy League college campuses. But
mm,
look at how it ends up. Every time such a thing happens, that is, on the one hand, there is some kind of
mm,
atrocity incident in the Middle East, and there is a
mm,
response on the college campus.
mm, mm,
Immediately, every
mm,
time the level of clampdown goes up.
mm,
So
mm,
what I have come across over the last few days is that someone has lost a job, someone
mm,
is being threatened of being taken off the roster, professor, uh, and complete lies have been told about what he has said or written. I have gone through it all. He is a very famous Palestinian Christian faculty of Columbia, Joseph Massad. So he had tweeted and he had written for the Electronic Intifada, right? Uh, and for Samidong, and for all of this, and I've read through the actual pieces that have been taken up. He is on the verge of
mm,
losing his job. Uh,
mm,
they are planning to take action against the Harvard students who passed the resolution. Already,
mm,
some company in Israel has withdrawn its investment. Now, I'm guaranteeing you. I have no idea
mm,
about the details, but I'm guaranteeing you the amount of that investment will be very small. But that is not the point. They are going to,
mm,
get splashed on front
mm,
page
mm.
news across America, and a $5 million investment will appear to be $5 billion,
True,
because
true,
no one
true,
is
true.
going to.
True. Even in India, we are seeing in Karnataka under Congress government, one Muslim guy was put in the dock for writing pro-Palestinian things on internet. Then Yogi Adityanath has said that we should find out who are giving pro-Palestinian posts. Then he is going to take legal action. In Telangana, again non-Congress on BJP government. There also the police is oppressing the protesters who are protesting against Israel. At the same time, no, I since the experts are here, I want to bring a historical context. That is, you all know about 25th November 1940 Patria disaster, where SS Patria that had I think about I don't know some exact figures of people I don't know. I think 1800 Jewish refugees they were carrying, but a bomb blast was done on that thing. It was a French ocean liner, and 267 people were killed, and it was done by the Haganah group, who were the responsible for the Jewish or the Zionist insurgency in Palestine, occupied Palestine, 1930. So, from that perspective, will it be wrong to say that whatever has happened, this so-called intelligence failure Mossad that people are projecting, is it really that way? Does it look that way? Because I think the Israelis was ready to completely flatten Palestine. I think the way they are moving, this can't happen in such short notice if they are not really interested. Maybe even this narrative that internally Israeli media is criticizing Netanyahu, that also might be to fool the world that look, we are divided inside, but ultimately whatever happens, it is the Palestinians who are losing. Acha, Maity the first, then Saurabh sir.
Just one small thing, that
Hmm,
it is true that Netanyahu has looked upon the incident, as is expected, as a
hmm,
relief, because he was on the verge of getting, this whole movement of, trying to pass laws to degrade the Supreme Court, and the protests trying to hold on to the original charter of the Supreme Court, right?
mm,
So the idea was that Netanyahu, mind you, has already been indicted by the court. Now,
mm,
in several cases, there are more other cases, and these cases don't have direct bearings on Palestine. These are
mm,
graft cases. The point
mm,
is that there was every chance that he would, Netanyahu in particular, and a few other people around him, they would get eventually, given the verdict of, and put put into jail. That was a
mm.
possibility. So Netanyahu sees it as a get out of jail clause. However, the protests haven't stopped entirely, right?
Okay.
Even now, the protests in Tel Aviv against Netanyahu, smaller in size, but it is going on, and that is something that I personally have never seen happen in Israel. Every time there is a conflict, they get immediately create a quote unquote unity government, and everyone falls back in line. Everyone in
Okay.
Israel, even the so-called liberal Zionists, right?
Mm,
This time, I don't think that is happening. Partially because this time the government Netanyahu formed in 2022 end, November or December, he has totally taken up the, beyond the far right into his coalition, from Kahanists to all kinds of lunatics, right?
mm, mm,
Uh, Look, so there are two aspects of it. First is the aspect of false flag operation. There is no doubt false flag operation happens, and Israel has done a lot of false flag operations. You talked about that ocean liner, but they also did a lot of bomb blasts in Baghdad and other places, especially in the Jewish area, forcing the Jews to leave this country and migrate to Israel. That has happened. However, I don't agree with this point of view that that Israel let that happen. Why I say
mm,
this is that we have been conditioned to think that Mossad is this impregnable, all-encompassing, never to be defeated kind of a leviathan, and Palestinians are asymmetrically very weak. It does not work like that. If you look at Hamas or Hezbollah or any other group, they are not working alone. We have to talk about Iran. We have to talk about the IRGC Quds Force. And we have to talk
mm,
about their achievements also. So it is not that just a ragtag group of militia is fighting this, Leviathan. Uh, in 2006 also, Israel attacked Lebanon, and it was defeated by Hezbollah on the borders of southern Lebanon. Uh, Time and again in other theaters also, Quds forces have inflicted defeat on those parties who have been supported by Israel actively. Therefore, to think that such a spectacular thing cannot be done by Palestinians is to believe that is also kind of Hasbara, so that we believe in this mighty Leviathan of Mossad which can never be defeated. It is not like that. It has been defeated. It has been defeated in the past. It will be defeated in the future. So I don't agree with this point of view. As far as attacking Palestine, Gaza is concerned, Israel does not need any excuse to do that. In the last 20 years, this is the first time that the initiative was taken by Hamas. But in the past conflicts also, Gaza has been flattened. You should remember Operation Cast Lead, way back in 2000, I think it was 8 or 6. They flattened half of Gaza. So they don't need an excuse. They don't need this attack to do that. So I don't agree with this. Of course, this is not to say that Israel does not do false flag operation, but it is
mm.
also not to say that these things cannot be done by the resistance group. Resistance group is also very smart.
Okay, okay. So, I am not a Hasbara. Let me point out that to the viewers. And I just bought this
And of
point
course, you
because
are not. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Of course,
I just
you
bought,
are. You
I
are.
just bought this point. Yeah, I just bought this point because I wanted the viewers to understand that especially the Indian viewers, they see everything
True,
in a
true, true.
very dramatized manner, and they think that things in Middle East happens because of Sunni versus Shia, or
Yeah, yeah.
Jew
I
versus
know.
Muslim. Yeah,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
the sentiment that is being used by a lot of people to do Muslim victim politics also needs to call out. But we'll do a separate podcast on that with Saurabh sir, because Saurabh sir has talked about the Kurds and the Kurdistani people who, in the format of YPG, they have been fighting against ISIS for a long time, and currently we're also seeing their lands being given to the Zionists, and Kurdistani lands in I think Turkey as well as Iraq, Syria side has been given to the Jews. So we will discuss about that later. Thanks to both of you for coming on our podcast. We'll try to address as much as problems in Middle East in a very different way. That is not exactly the leftist or the activist or the Hindutavadi or even from Muslim point of view. We'll try to keep it as vernacular as possible. Thanks for joining. Please watch DYNT News, like, share, and subscribe. Our motto: democratize your nation today and awaken one human at a time. Thank you for watching this video.